Are you throwing away money if you rent? This drives me nuts. So many people that I run into when we're talking about, oh, you rent? Why don't you have a mortgage? You're throwing money away. Oh, let me teach you. Let me educate you. Rent, most of the time, is substantially less than a mortgage for the exact same property. So, for example, let's say the mortgage would be $4,500 and rent is $3,000. We are paying $1,500 less a month. So with that $1,500, if we take that extra money, that $1,500, and invest it in the S&P 500, for example, every month, that will earn us interest and make us money. And not to mention, we already have the extra $1,500. So when you can get rent, which is almost always going to be less than the mortgage for the exact equivalent property, you will do better. The argument that is not a fair argument, because it's apples to oranges, is, well, why don't you find a mortgage that is identical to your rent? That doesn't really exist for apples to apples. If you live in a really nice area and then you move to a less desirable area, sure, you can get mortgage the same price as rent. And if you are happy with that new place to live, by all means, that is a great financial decision. If you can have rent the same as mortgage, then yes, of course, you can build equity. The other thing that people forget to mention, when you build equity in a home or you put a down payment, you have to put 20% to get the best rate on a mortgage. So let's say you buy $1 million home, you have to put $200,000. When you put that $200,000 into that house, it sits there and does nothing. That $200,000 is just sitting there. It is not accruing any interest for you. Versus if I have that same $200,000 in the S&P 500, over a long enough time period, it's probably doing 10% a year. So I like when my money's doing stuff for me. I don't like when it's sitting there doing nothing. And I think people forget that part of the argument when they're saying, rent, you're throwing money away. My argument is, no, I'm paying less and putting more into investments. So I'm not saying mortgage or rent is always better, but I want you to reframe this. The world, American society has told us, own a home, that's the American dream. The American dream is whatever you want it to be. And it can be renting, it can be owning. You can rent a house, by the way. And maybe it's more affordable, maybe it's easier, maybe you don't have to come up with a down payment, maybe it's more comfortable for you. And frankly, for me, I don't know how to fix things. So when I have a landlord, they can be responsible for fixing things. I like that. So I want you to reframe what your American dream is and what it has to be. You do not have to do what they have told you for years, buy a house, have a white picket fence. That's their dream. What is your dream and what do you want for yourself? Please put that in the comments. What do you want? What do you want for your housing situation, for your finances? I would love to hear about that.